Hey everyone, so I wanted to record a quick video about a new Crota DPS strategy that me and my chat have kind of formulated over the past couple hours or so. And what if I told you that there is a way to do good total damage, good total sword damage on Crota, do theoretically higher DPS than Lament, and you can use this option on any class and with multiple people in the fire team using it with no damage loss between them. So let me introduce you to Heart Shadow swapping. So something special about Heart Shadow that a lot of other swords suffer from is that, you might have wondered, why not use, maybe a shotgun, 2 shotguns with a sword like Throne Cleaver? Well, Throne Cleaver has a really, really slow animation after you do its heavy attack. The amount of time it takes for you to be able to swap weapons after using that heavy attack is really, really long. However, Heart Shadow actually is not like this at all. So if we take a look at my video editor here, on the left side, we have Heart Shadow. Just using Heart Shadow repeatedly like you normally would. You would wait for the heavy attack to charge and then you would use it again. Just heavy, 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 heavy. And on the right side, we have me swapping between a Heart Shadow and an aggressive frame kinetic shotgun. Now this shotgun can use a variety of perks and we're going to get into that in a second. But you're going to see here, if you look at the frame data, you can see that both times, even if I swap to the shotgun and back to the sword, I can heavy attack at pretty much the same time. In fact, when I was doing this, because I'm a human obviously, on the right side I was actually able to attack with Heart Shadow even earlier than the left side. So what does this mean for the Heart Shadow economy? Well, this means a lot of good things for the Heart Shadow economy. It means that during the downtime, while you're waiting for your sword to charge, you can fit in a burst of damage from your shotgun, and that basically is free damage added on to your Heart Shadow DPS. So how much is Heart Shadow DPS actually? Well, this morning I did some testing on Templar to find out the Heart Shadow base values procced with Shot in the Dark, and the numbers I found were not very good. If you take a look over here, Heart Shadow, if you're just doing repeated heavy attacks, does about 89k DPS, which is, it's not great. Some special weapons do more damage than that. For a heavy exotic sword, not looking too hot. I mean, if you're looking at Lament, you're looking at 110k. If you're looking at something like Bequest with Surrounded with the right combo, it's almost 140k. Now, the trouble comes for these other swords when we start adding in this additional shotgun. Because remember, how I damage calculate in my spreadsheet is I use this thing called a cycle. So what I do is I time the number of milliseconds or seconds that it takes from one heavy attack to another heavy attack. And I do that for every single sword combo. So for example, for Heart Shadow, that's just heavy attack to heavy attack to heavy attack. The same place in the animation, I time the cycle like that. However, if you add in the shotgun, remember what I said earlier, there's actually no added time to your combo. So it's just free extra DPS for pretty much, no time lost whatsoever, no time gained, I should say, whatsoever. So what does this mean? If you go ahead and look at the DPS values, even with no Surrounded. So if we're comparing to something like Bequest, which requires Surrounded, even with no Surrounded, you see that Heart Shadow hits a DPS value of 125,000. That is already higher than Lament. Okay, so a lot of people, they have a complaint with Bequest. Bequest requires Surrounded. I'm not going to get Surrounded in LFG. Heart Shadow does not require Surrounded to outdamage Bequest, and shotgun swapping with Bequest is worse than just using Bequest normally. So again, because of this heavy attack property from Heart Shadow, it's really great. And of course, if you can get Surrounded with something like an aggressive shotgun that's kinetic, like Imperial Decree, for example, this thing's DPS jumps up all the way up to 135k. So now you might be wondering, why should I care about Heart Shadow if Bequest with Surrounded already does more damage? Well, why was me, someone who cares about serious damage rotation options, why was I looking at Heart Shadow to begin with? Because, Heart Shadow is kind of a joke within some D2 communities, and it's an interesting sword, certainly a unique concept, but why would I look into it in the first place? So the reason why I looked into Heart Shadow is because, number one, if you didn't know, Crota takes increased sword damage. The estimates range from 25 to 35%. We're going to do more testing on that scalar in the future, but Crota does take more sword damage. So I was thinking, if I'm the Tractor user on my team, and I don't want to just shotgun Crota with shotguns while he's beating me around, how can I switch to a sword that will do damage, but also keep that 30% debuff for the whole time? And now if you don't know, Heart Shadow applies a debuff, or a weaken, I should say, a 15% weaken to bosses, but it's a timer-based weaken. And so we can use this thing in the game called debuff extension. And what that does is, since Tractor has a timer-based debuff, 30% for 10 seconds, if I use the Heart Shadow weaken on a boss, since Heart Shadow's weaken is also timer-based, it refreshes that Tractor duration. Meaning that I can start on Tractor, switch to Heart Shadow, do this crazy DPS, on Tractor while still doing the job of Tractor for the entire DPS phase as long as I have Heart Shadow ammo, which is easily 30, 40 seconds or more, if not more. Okay, all the testing I did, in fact, when I was doing this in LFG, and you'll see this in a second, I did it without the Catalyst and with no reserves. I did it with 50 ammo on Crota, and I was able to successfully keep my ammo going into a second phase, and we killed, and I still had ammo. So Heart Shadow is absolutely a fantastic option to use on Crota, especially if you are the Tractor user, right? Especially if you're the Tractor user. Now, there is a caveat here if you're going to use Heart Shadow. Obviously, if you're going to use Heart Shadow by itself and you're not switching from Tractor, this is not a big deal. However, obviously, if you're switching from Tractor to Heart Shadow, you're going to nuke the amount of heavy ammo that you have. So you're going to need some teammate support. Most teams, they're going for a 2-sword and not a 1-sword. So you're going to have 2 of those sword bearers that you can finish with Aeons, or you can mark with Cenotaph. And what you can do is you can Tractor the boss, switch to a loadout with Heart Shadow and a shoot to loot trace rifle, grab some of that heavy ammo, and then boom, you're basically like a normal sword DPS player. It's like having 6 people that do full damage. The Tractor is not sacrificing their damage for the rest of the team to have that 30% debuff. You can continue to extend it and do full, if not more, sword damage than the average person doing sword damage in LFG. So you might be wondering, I said theoretically Heart Shadow does 125k DPS. Theoretically, it outdamages Lament. So my chat challenged me and they said, hey, you should go take this thing into a Crota CP. You know, this looks cool and all on paper. You should go take this thing into a Crota CP. Prove to us that you can outdamage people using Lament on Heart Shadow. Okay? And so I went into LFG as, you know, as the good streamer that I am. And we tested Heart Shadow in LFG. Now, granted, some of these examples, of course, I'm personally an opponent of telling people that, hey, this is good for DPS because I outdamaged LFGs. Because obviously LFGs, they're nowhere near as experienced at the game as I am. Even if they're using Lament, they're probably not using Lucent Blades. They're probably not using Mono. I mean, I wasn't using Mono either, but they're probably not using Lucent Blades. They're probably not doing damage correctly. They don't know the combo. They're not frame capping. There's a lot of things that go into this. But I just wanted to show you that you can be the Tractor user on your team and put these numbers out that I'm about to show you on screen. So again, like I said, you can be the Tractor user as long as your team is making finishers, which a lot of people are willing to make finishers on Crota because they understand the importance of heavy ammo because you're just using heavy ammo during damage. As long as you have heavy ammo, you can be putting out these numbers of damage. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look. I'll show you what the combo looks like. Again, it's very, very simple. It's just heavy, shotgun, heavy, shotgun, heavy, shotgun. You just do that repeatedly. And then when your shotgun's about to run out of ammo, you can either switch to your sword, do a heavy attack, and then throw a grenade. You can reload dodge if you're on Hunter. You can Icarus Dash, Rain of Fire, or Weave Walk if you're on Warlock. Or you could do heavy attack, light, heavy attack, and then your shotgun will be loaded again. Or you can, you know, integrate a supercast in there. You know, there's a lot of things you can do. But by the time you dump 10 of your shotgun shots, that's 10 combos off of your Heart Shadow. The DPS phase is going to be over anyway. So you'll only need to really think about, you know, hey, my shotgun's empty. You only got to think about that once. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at some of that damage that we were talking about earlier. I'm going to skip past the mechanics because obviously, you know, I'm sure you guys know how to do Crota mechanics. This doesn't really change anything about mechanics. But you'll see here, again, all of what you're seeing here could be done as the Tractor user. Like I said, during this moment, you can pre-Tractor the boss. You have 10 seconds. Your relic holders have 10 seconds to do whatever they want. You pre-Tractor the boss. You switch the Heart Shadow, shoot to loot. You go peek over to where the Aeon finishes are. You shoot them, and then you do this.
I'll get second wall.
Right? Again, heavy attack, shotgun, heavy attack. And here, I'm actually taking my time, lining up my shot, making sure I'm doing everything right. You could theoretically be doing damage even faster than this. Heavy attack, shotgun. Heavy attack, shotgun. Just over and over. Heavy attack, shotgun. It's very, very straightforward. And again, it's not super time sensitive either. The sword hit, again, a big issue that people have on Crota is sword hit reg, right? They say you should frame cap on Lament. My Bequest keeps piercing. My Gold Tusk isn't doing the aerial combo correctly. Look at how consistent Heart Shadow's projectiles hit this guy for full damage. Look at that. You're seeing 4 numbers on the screen every single time. This thing is a breeze to do damage with. Look at that. Four numbers every single time. And again, these numbers that you're going to see at the end, it's an LFG. It's not going to be perfect. I think we didn't have a well for the second phase. A lot of things happened, but at the end of the day, right, we go to the end of damage. We go to the wipe screen. Boom. 6.2. Granted, I did use Gathering Storm, but again, this is not exclusive to people that use Gathering Storm. You can use Blade Barrage. You can do whatever you want. The other people in the LFG, they were using Blade Barrage. They were using standard damage supers. So again, you can do this on any class on any subclass. You can do it on Tractor. You can do it not on Tractor. This is such a flexible damage option. It does not require you to cap your frames. It doesn't have any hit reg issues. It's super brain dead and easy to pull off. As long as you can tap 3 and 1 during damage, you're pretty much set. It's very, very, very easy to use. Okay? That's all I wanted to say about Hard Shadow and Tractor swapping. It's kind of funny that this damage strategy came about. I actually wanted to use this damage strategy in speedruns. I kind of thought it was a joke. I think someone suggested it to me. I don't really remember who it was, but they said, Hard Shadow extends weekend. Maybe you could do that, and we were kind of joking about it. And I thought about it. I was like, well, Crota does take increased sword damage. I've heard Hard Shadow damage is okay, so why don't I try it? And it ended up being pretty good. So now, I'm not going to unequivocally recommend everybody use Hard Shadow for every sword DPS boss ever. However, I think this is an option that you should absolutely consider if you're using it on Crota. You don't even need the Catalyst. Again, the Catalyst gives you some nice reserves. You don't even need the Catalyst. You just need 3 Loosened Blades. You need a decent kinetic ammo shotgun. And you need to be able to press the buttons 1 and 3 on your keyboard while you're doing DPS. That's not much to ask. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. No sword reg issues. Pretty nice. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I don't normally make videos like this talking about, single DPS options that appear and crop up, but I thought this was a very interesting find, and I thought you guys might enjoy it. So, yeah, go spread this to your friends, I guess.